during the rest of the meeting.
So public comment will be limited to a total of 20 minutes at the beginning of the meeting and will continue at the conclusion of the meeting after all the business is completed. Comments are limited to 2 minutes each, as the Vice Mayor just announced. The City Council may not discuss or take action on issues not on the agenda, on the meeting agenda, except that members of the City Council or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by persons exercising public testimony rights. Members of the public shall direct comments to the body as a whole, not to staff, individual members of the body, or the public. No person shall be permitted to interrupt members of the body, staff presentations, or members of the public. Any person making personal or impertinent or slanderous remarks about members of the body, staff, or the public, or who shall become boisterous or threatening or personally abusive of the body, staff, or members of the public, shall be asked by the chair, by the Vice Mayor today, to cease and desist such activity and may be requested or required to leave the meeting in the event that behavior continues to disrupt the meeting proceedings. And with that,
Mark, before we jump in, I'm going to guess that we may have some recurring themes around congregational land, and Anthony McClain, I'm going to ask the city manager just to briefly, preemptively, maybe give a quick comment on those items.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As it relates to possible housing overlay of church properties, as I've mentioned previously in these settings, that item is expected to return to council after the first of the year, making a stop first through the Planning Commission. As it relates to the various investigations and disposition regarding the Anthony McClain shooting, there has been no change in the status, and there is nothing that is reportable.
Thank you, Steve. So if we go to public comment?
Sure. The first speaker would be Sue Parkour, H-U-R, followed by Cynthia Kirby, who's not yet in the meeting, followed by Ali Bernison, followed by Rosalie Newman. So let's bring in Sue Parkour. Okay, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sue Parker, and I have lived in Pasadena for 10 years total. It's my first time speaking in front of the council members in this format, so I'm both excited and a little bit nervous, but I want to thank you for your time. As a resident of Pasadena District 2, I want to thank you for all of your services, especially I just got my booster shot, so I wanted to just thank you for making vaccines accessible across the city. And I also wanted to thank you, and I'm just excited about the affordable housing units in the Diane and John Mullen Hope Center. Just excited about following those stories. I am a pastor. I'm a denominational pastor of the Mennonite Church on a denominational level. So this is my request here to, and my presence here is really with many hats, but I'm educated, but my salary is low. And the reason I can live in this city is because I rent from my friend's mother who bought this house in the 1970s. Otherwise, I would not be able to afford to live in Pasadena. As a resident, and just, beginning of November 1st, I received a text from my landlord. And the first thing that struck me was panic, because I go by a monthly lease. And any time that a landlord texts you is bad news.
30 seconds.
One of the things that I really wanted to ask you was to request for a rezoning of existing churches scattered across the city for affordable housing. As a person who is a renter, I think this is really important. As a person of faith who recognizes that churches are across the country, across the city, it breaks the racist and classist exclusionary zoning practices. So I hope that we would be able to implement
your time is expired. Could you bring your comments to a close?
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you would consider my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Kirby is not in the meeting. We'll move on to Ali Bernison, followed by Rosalie Nyman.
Yes, Hi, to the mayor.
2 minutes. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Hey, it's Allie. So I was born here in Pasadena and spent my childhood here and returned as an adult, most recently having completed my graduate degree at Fuller Seminary. I love the city so much and its people who are often warm and hospitable. And I believe that rethinking and amending key policies on affordable housing would enable us to live up to these qualities that I hope we all want to emulate as a community. So I want to thank the council and acknowledge the incredible work that's already been done in the realm of affordable housing. However, I think there is more that can and should be done. So similar to what Sue was saying, I've recently been searching for housing myself, and I've been struck and humbled by the severe lack of affordable housing options. As a single woman with a master's degree, still the search for housing is pretty daunting and seemingly impossible, as the options for affordable housing are extremely minimal. So if there's a logical solution, I think that we should pursue it full force. So I'm also speaking to support the proposal to rezone church land for affordable housing in Pasadena. I believe rezoning church land would provide much needed additional sites for affordable housing. 10 churches have already expressed interest in having affordable housing on their land. But of course, the issue is that most churches are either not zoned for residential housing or not zoned at a high enough density to make affordable housing development feasible financially. So speaking to, okay, yeah, pass this ordinance by right. And yeah, I hope that we can partner in reshaping Pasadena to be hospitable and inclusive. It's not operating within, historically racist and classist systems. Thank you guys so much for your time and for all you do.
Thank you. Rosalie Nyman, followed by Evie, who has not checked into the meeting, so it would be Hiram Cormier Jr. Ms. Nyman?
Yes, good evening, City Council members. My name is Rosalie Neiman. I've lived in the area for over 40 years, but I'm a happy new resident in District 5 for the past 2 years. Our church friends and I support the local advocacy group Making Housing and Community Happen, and they helped me with these talking points. I moved to my street because it was more affordable, and I liked the variety. I do like the variety of housing that exists and the nearby restaurants and other businesses. I can attest that multifamily housing next to single-family neighborhoods works fine and can help end the racist and exclusionary zoning practices that have taken place in the past. So I'm joining the previous speakers to support rezoning church land because it will provide much needed additional sites. David Reyes, Director of Planning, has said that there are not enough sites for building affordable housing. And this Making Housing and Community Happen group has submitted a proposal that looks at each church site in the city and proposes a density limit that makes sense considering what's located near it. This rezoning needs to be by right, because if it is not by right, then nonprofit housing developers won't be able to compete with the profit developers, I should say, developers who build market rate housing. And finally, this by right rezoning will put affordable housing throughout the city. And I thank you for your ongoing work to create housing justice in our beautiful, interesting city. Thanks.
Thank you. Evie is not in the meeting, so we'll move on to Hiram Cormier Jr., followed by Danielle Wilson, also not yet in the meeting, followed by Alan Shea.
Yeah, what's up? So,
go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Awesome. So, again, you know why I'm here. I'm calling again to tell you that you need to fire the cops and kill Anthony McClain. At the beginning of the meeting, Romero, you said nothing has changed, and you're exactly right, because As I and other callers have said 1,000 times before, this has been happening in Pasadena and America for hundreds of years. And you're right, nothing has changed. Black people are still shot in their back while running out of their shoes, and council members such as y'all don't do anything. Instead, you sit there in your positions of power as elected officials and say you don't have the power to do exactly that, change, or anything at all, which is fucking hilarious and ironic and frankly insulting to every single constituent that you claim to care about. You know, I'm pretty sure Anthony McClain and the other black people who've been killed, incarcerated, etc., and so forth by the Pasadena Police Department were also constituents. I'm pretty sure that the majority of black people who live in Pasadena are constituents, meaning, they live there, so of course they are. And the same shit can happen to them. It has happened to them, and unfortunately, because of the way you act, will, and nothing will change because you fail to make it change. And that's on you. Again, also, Gordo's not here, but I was also wondering why, through all his little comments that the little boy makes, why is it that he only really seems to respond when mainly black women are talking? Women in general, but specifically black women. I think it's pretty fucking misogynistic. He stares people down. He questions our integrity. He calls us cowards. But y'all are cowards because y'all haven't done nothing to address this at all. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that nothing has been changed. You know, that cop shot up the whole fucking block. I'm pretty sure I heard right. One of those bullets hit somebody's house. And y'all ain't do shit about it. Fire the cops to kill Anthony McClain. Bring this injustice to a close. Thank you very much. And fuck you.
Danielle Wilson still's not in the meeting, so we'll move to Alan Shea, followed by Jasmine Richards Abdullah, who's not in the meeting yet. Adriana Batista, who's not in the meeting yet. So followed by them will be Jason Reedy, or Jason R, sorry. Star 6 to unmute.
Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor and City Council members. As usual, I'm making my routine call. And my routine call is going to be focused today really on will there ever be any of the items agendized that's been called to your attention regarding Anthony McClain? There has certainly been a call that we agendize the alleged protective order issue because there's a video that was taken from the center right there at La Pinaresca Park showing where the officer brought the gun into the crime scene and placed it so that officer, the one who shot Anthony, I can't even think of his name now, he picked the gun up. That video was on the website. So that gun was brought in by Pasadena police. We need to see that video showing them actually placing it, and you have prevented the public from seeing that video. We need to have that released. And we also need to make sure that we have agendized what the new arrangement is going to be about the priority of investigating. Councilmember Hampton said that that's something he wants to see happen. It hasn't happened. We need some kind of finality to these questions so we can resolve them within our community. Thank you.
So Danielle Wilson, Jasmine Richards Abdullah, and Adriana Batista are not in the meeting, so we'll move on to Jason R., followed by Kat Ross, followed by Pastor Kerwin Manning.
Look.
2 minutes, go ahead.
All right. So John Kennedy, you have proven many things over your almost 40 years in quote-unquote public service. First, you placed the police over the people. Second, you are not for the people, especially black people. And third, you are Mr. Coon.
Order, the public speakers are supposed to address the body as a whole and not individual council members. Thanks.
What kind of bullshit is that? So you guys can address us as individuals. We can address you as council members. If I wanted to talk to John Kennedy as part of my public comment, I should be able to address him.
You need to address the body as a whole. please. We want to hear what
Sure.
you
So
have to say.
this
We want
body,
to
okay, so this body is full of coons. How about that? This body is full of coons. I'm going to quote one of your council members since he's part of your body. He said in the past that oversight and accountability are part of the territory and come with the honor of accepting a badge and a gun. But obviously, this body doesn't think that's the case when it comes to cops who murder, terrorize, and harass Black people. One of your council members, the Black one, the man, is a coward of many words. He doesn't want to see Edwin DeMcGuindon or Ron Serrano held responsible for the murder of Anthony McClain. Let's see here. Let's talk about the Black woman that is on your council. I'm not going to address her specifically. She's a coon. She shouldn't be forgetting that anytime soon. Her Facebook page.
Your comments are
Vice Mayor, these are derogatory statements.
These are
derogatory statements. These people are coons. These people are coons. That's what they are, right?
Jason, I'm sorry.
Cut his mic. You know what? When this, we don't have to ask people to do anything. The minute we hear this, cut them off. Just cut them off.
I think we just cut him off.
We did.
Oh no, I appreciate it. No, I'm just saying. Just from here on out, we hear any of this type of stuff, we need to just cut them off immediately.
Thank you.
So I'd like to remind the public that hate speech is not acceptable, and as Councilmember Felicia Williams pointed out, the comments need to be addressed to the whole body. So I'd ask people, if they're not going to do that, that they rewrite their comments or show up on another day.
The next speaker is Kat Ross, followed by Kerwin Manning, Pastor Kerwin Manning, followed by Michael Williams.
Last week, I asked about the officer-involved shooting policy, specifically changing the length of the administrative review period from an indefinite period to 9 months, which was the amount of time Chief Perez said an investigation could a maximum take. This would allow officers and the community an opportunity for closure after an officer kills one of our neighbors. Last week, the council made a motion to add an item to a future agenda for a different issue. I ask that you make a motion today to agendize the officer-involved shooting policy for a meeting in December. This is an urgent matter, and I urge you to take it up this year. Please agendize this issue. It will allow us to know when to show up, when we don't need to show up to talk to you each week. It would also allow us to know your particular views as a body and as individuals on these issues. We really do want to know what you think, and we really do care about how you are taking care of our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Kerwin Manning, followed by Michael Williams, followed by Jane Ward. Pastor Manning, if you want to unmute.
Yes, I come to you today as a pastor, having served over 20 years in this community. I'm here to ask you to hold the mayor accountable for his words and his actions, and I'm asking the mayor to repent of his discouraging comments, dismissive attitude, and dishonest claims towards people who care about the quality of life of our community. For him to offer a public apology. I was so disappointed in the way that our mayor handled and his frustrations with public comments in the past 2 city council meetings. He accused concerned citizens of pretending to speak for the community, and then he called by name Caroline and scolded her for speaking to the council from her living room in Sierra Madre. Then he went on to say that every member should be offended when people outside our community come and tell us about ourselves. This is so disingenuous when our top employee, our city manager, our police chief, and many city employees live in other cities, but they're able to give to this city and to be concerned about matters within this border. The next meeting, he did the same thing with Heavenly Hughes, accusing her of being unable to visit Jackie Robinson and went park. And when she corrected him and confirmed that she was feeding the homeless, he didn't say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, Miss Hughes." He said, "Okay," and went on. This is not acceptable. Finally, counsel, I am still lifting my voice according to Proverbs 31:8 and 9, speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves, and asking you to stop killing innocent civilians. There has never been a civilian convicted of killing a Pasadena police officer, not a black, white, or any other civilian. But I've personally walked with, visited, officiated, and eulogized the funerals of 4 black men killed by Pasadena Police Department. This is unacceptable. We've got to change. We've got to do better, y'all. And I'm committed to doing whatever it takes and working with you to make sure that this happens. God bless you.
Thank you. Michael Williams, followed by Jane Ward. Go ahead, 2 minutes. Oh, sorry, you just unmuted. You muted and then you muted yourself. There you go. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say that if you keep enforcing your policy that is against and in a violation of the Freedom of Speech Act, you will be receiving a lawsuit. I will promise you that. Do not continue to keep doing that. You've let it slide that you have this policy because you haven't enforced it, but now you're trying to enforce it and silence people. If you can't take people saying things that you don't like or that you don't want to hear, then find another job. Secondly, this council, the mayor, have to stop pushing off blame to other people for not doing the right thing in the case of Anthony McClain. The right thing is to fire the officer. You all have not done that. You've tried to push it off on the police, the chief of police. You tried to push it off on the city manager. You tried to push it off on the district attorney of Los Angeles. And now you've allowed your unscrupulous mayor to push it off on the community, basically saying that the community doesn't care about police violence in Pasadena, which is a lie. Stop doing
30 seconds.
Fire the officers that killed Anthony McClain because it's the right thing to do. It shouldn't matter who's calling in, whether they're from Pasadena or from Canada. The right thing is the right thing, and it shouldn't take people telling you to do the right thing for you to do it. So just do it.
Thank you. Jane Ward, followed by, we have one more, we have time for 2 more. Jane Ward, followed by Keeley.
I hear you saying you don't like hate speech, that it's unacceptable. Well, how about hate killings? It's really amazing how fragile and sensitive this city council is, and yet it won't attend to the killing of Black men in Pasadena. I agree with the previous caller that it is time to stop passing the buck. This is your responsibility. Councilmember Hampton said last week that a fireable offense does not need to be a criminal offense. You can fire someone for doing a bad job. You don't need to wait for criminal charges. It seems like your policy is to do nothing but wait for the DA. This isn't only lazy and irresponsible, it's unethical. In other cities, when officers shoot Black men in the back as they are running, the city generally does something. In Atlanta, when an officer shot Rashard Brooks in the back and killed him, the police chief resigned the next day. When the Charleston police shot Walter Scott in the back as he was running away, the officer shot him was sentenced to 20 years in prison. What is wrong with the city of Pasadena? You tell us you're going to agendize your OIS policy sometime next year. That's not fast enough. We need accountability now. We need you to make a statement now. Have you done your internal administrative investigation? Have you finished it? Otherwise, we're going to assume it hasn't happened because you won't make any announcement whatsoever. Mayor Gordo, we noticed that you're only interested in one type of violence and murder, the kind that gets more money for the cops, but not the kind that makes it obvious that the cops
20 seconds.
Murderers. If you care so much about public safety and law and order, then show us by taking action against the city employees who shoot Black men in the back. And I want to reiterate that some members of the council have been speaking up about Anthony McClain and about the city's failure to act in OIS cases. Where is the rest of the council? Just Rivas? Where's your voice?
Your time has expired.
Account. What do you have to say about this?
Thank you. Akili will be the last speaker.
My name's Akili, and I'm with Black Lives Matters. And the city of Pasadena has an extensive and shameful history of anti-Blackness. I know this because I spent many hours in Pasadena lifting up Kendrick McDade that was killed by the police, by the Pasadena police. And nothing was done there. And now we have Anthony McClain, who was killed again, neither one of which committed any crimes, neither one of which all they had in common was being Black, neither one of which there was any accountability or justice. And so your city has a bad and shameful history of anti-Blackness. And worse than that, you have people who Black people who corroborate with it. Now, they don't like being called coons and the rest, but when you corroborate with our oppressor, when you corroborate with the people who harm us, then what else can we call you? If I had my way, I would just put on Malcolm and he could simply talk about the house Negroes and the field Negroes, which you all have some house Negroes there. Your shameful behavior, your shameful unwillingness to listen to, accept, and support the accountability for the murder of both Kendrick McDade and Anthony McClain is an example of your willingness to be against the people, to be against what the people want, and to be for the status quo. Last year, many people, thousands of people took to the streets because of George Floyd. You all have your own George Floyd. Pasadena has its own George Floyd. And as long as you do nothing, people from around the city, around the county, and around the country will call and demand accountability and justice. Do something.
Thank you. That completes public comment for the initial 20 minutes. Mary Itoma would be the first speaker. Camille, it looks like Luia is not in the meeting, so then we'll go to Laura Ortiz.
Hi everyone. My name is Mary Itoma. I'm speaking on behalf of Unite Here Local 11. First, I want to recognize this council for doing more for hospitality workers in the last several years than other city nearby. From the 2016 living wage to the recall and retention laws you passed last year, hospitality workers in Pasadena have better wages and protections on the job than in most neighboring cities. We can't tell you how much we appreciate this as our members recover from the most devastating economic crisis in history. To this end, as FIFA considers the Rose Bowl for a 2026 World Cup venue, we must ensure stadium jobs pay workers fairly for their labor, enabling them to support themselves and their families as they do essential work that makes world-class sporting events in our city so successful. We know that FIFA will bring much needed revenue and jobs for our community here, and workers deserve to share in that. We know that this vision is consistent with the council's values, as we did in 2016 with the minimum wage. Let's make history again by making sure Rose Bowl workers enjoy world-class jobs with living wages and benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Ortiz, followed by Karina Kay. Ms. Ortiz, go ahead, 2 minutes. Ms. Ortiz?
Hello, I'm here. Hi, how are you? Yeah, my name is Laura. My name is Laura Ortiz, and I have worked as a bartender and suite attendant at Staples Center for the last 17 years, and I work at the Rose Bowl as well. So I'm calling today to urge the City Council to address workers' issue at the Rose Bowl. At my job, working in the service industry, I enjoyed a good labor standards. My voice heard, and my rights are respected because I have a union. We have stable labor management relationship. The workers at the Rose Bowl deserve the same. FIFA is considering to hold in the
Ms. Ortiz, did we lose you? Okay, we'll go to the next speaker, Karina K. Star 6 to unmute, Ms. Karina.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi there, my name's Karina. I'm a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I'm also a Pasadena resident. I've called in before. I want to start off by saying that your curtailing free speech is unacceptable. Like, you don't get to say how people express themselves and how they communicate just because you are a conciliar body. That's ridiculous, and it's extremely undemocratic of you. So I would urge you to revisit that. Secondly, I'm calling to uplift the demand for justice for Anthony McClain. You all operate as if the Pasadena Police Department doesn't have blood on its hands. You all operate as if a Pasadena resident getting shot in the back is okay. None of you should feel proud of that. We demand that those officers be fired. There's body cams for a reason. Being hunted down like a deer or an animal is unacceptable. Anthony McClain was a human being, and you all acting as the gatekeepers and allowing your police department to walk around unscathed with zero accountability is egregious. It's reprehensible. You all need to start reimagining public safety and reimagining what police accountability looks like, because what you're doing right now is absolutely not it. We need justice for Anthony McClain. We need those officers fired. We need Steve Mermel fired for failing to hold anyone accountable, and we need the police chief fired for this disgusting behavior, this lack of investigation, and just your absolute problematic behavior. You all are white supremacists, black and brown faces on white supremacy. You don't need to be white to be a white supremacist. But this conciliar body is extremely problematic. We demand justice for Anthony McClain yesterday. Do your jobs.
Carolyn Galoni, there's a speaker by the name of JL that is not in the meeting. We'll move on to Carolyn Galoni, followed by Una Lee Yost. Carolyn, 2 minutes.
Hi, yes, I'm calling again to demand that you fire the cops that were involved in Anthony McClain's murder. Officer DuMcGuinness, Serrano, Maroney, and Duncan. And I mean, this is not, we can't keep saying like Pasadena has to come out and make us do something. This is absolutely absurd that we're allowing police officers to get away with murder and to systemically oppress groups of people. And Pasadena, this isn't the first one. I've been here for a while. I've been out here with Black Lives Matter for a while. This is not the first killing that I've protested. This is not the first time I've spoken to you. This is not the first case I've spoken to you about. It's been years. Get this done. Councilman Moses, you need to agendize this and make some waves. Why don't all of you state your positions on this? All of you make an announcement so that the world knows. So the world knows where Pasadena stands. So the world can decide whether or not they all want to come into this town, but stay outside this town so we're not spending our money here, and demand that you guys seek justice for Anthony McClain. You guys can stand out, hold signs if you want to outside of Mermel's office. You can fire Mermel because he hasn't done what needs to be done to get this justice. Anthony McClain and Anthony McClain's family deserve better. The community deserves better. Make news reports. Make some noise. Seriously, make some noise. You have a voice. You can speak out in every council meeting and say something about it. Hampton just did. Let's be loud. And if your opinion is contrary to mine, still say it. Don't just sit on your hands and pretend you're doing something or pretend you care. Actually do something. Police officers are murdering people.
There's a person by the name of JL. Okay.
Oh,
You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi. Just like the previous callers, I am making it clear that we deserve and demand justice for Anthony McClain. It is going on a whole year, and you guys have done absolutely nothing. During the summer of the biggest cry of for justice for Black folks, you had a George Floyd happen in your community. And what did you guys do? You did absolutely nothing. The fact that it's not even on the agenda, it says a lot about what this council believes in, how it feels about Black bodies. We have a member on your council member who says he will speak up. That's great, but as you see, they clearly do not value your voice because of what you look like. So we really need to stop all the bullshit and really hear what the people in the community are demanding. They're demanding that the officers that killed Anthony McClain be fired. That's just simple. That's just public safety 101. Clearly, if you're feeling threatened when someone's running away from you, which I don't know how you can feel threatened when someone is running away from you. But if you simply feel threatened that you will be trigger happy to kill someone, then you damn sure do not need to be a part of public safety. You damn sure do not need to be a part of that. The fact that there's no investigation happening smells of a cover-up about what's been happening in Pasadena. It smells funny. And the fact that you guys continue to pass the buck and just not do your basic job. This is like the bare minimum of your jobs is really absurd. It's really absurd. And it's a shame. It's a shame for that family to have to endure, who live in Pasadena, go in and out every single day and know that you guys can care less about their family members.
I'm sorry, your time has expired. Could you bring your comments to a close?
Do your job. Fire the officers. That's what I'm asking. That's what we're demanding.
Thank you. Vice Mayor and Council, Chair Farhad has been able to join us, and we are able to start item 7, if you would.
Greetings. I'm Yunalee Yost, POSD parent and member of the PTA, the nation's largest volunteer-led child advocacy association, working to drive improvements in the education, health, and well-being of all children and families. The state PTA recently adopted advocacy goals for 2021-23, which includes a commitment to advocate for shared power and belonging for all children, youth, and families to address the impacts of systemic and institutionalized injustice, end quote. I'm thus troubled by the mayor's treatment of racial justice advocates at recent council meetings, conveying they're outsiders whose views aren't welcome. On the contrary, I'm grateful for the input of racial advocates like Heavenly Hughes and Dr. Jane Ward, representatives of My Tribe Rise in showing up for racial justice, community-based organizations working to address and dismantle deeply rooted issues related to race and culture in our city. My Tribe Rise, featured in Pasadena Weekly earlier this year, was honored with Congresswoman Judy Chu's Nonprofit of the Year Award, as well as Senator Portantino's Certificate of Recognition Award. Showing Up for Racial Justice is likewise an organization working to further racial and economic justice. I'm grateful representatives of those groups took time to speak on behalf of Pasadena families at council meetings, since busy parents like me have limited time to participate in council meetings. I join their calls in urging the council to hold a town hall meeting on the topic of violence that Pasadena's Black residents have experienced at the hands of the city's police. Also, I encourage all council members to remember and uphold our city's municipal code, which requires all council meetings to be conducted, quote, in a manner that is courteous, responsive, and impartial, providing fair and uniform treatment of all persons and issues coming before the council. And that's in Pasadena Municipal Code Section 2.05.120. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Washatka, followed by Kristen Petherbridge, followed by Heavenly Hughes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Ed.
Good evening. My name is Ed Washatka, and I live in District 3. I read with surprise in the local news that workers at the Rose Bowl do not have livable wages, affordable health care, or safe working conditions because the workers do not have a collective bargaining agreement like they would have at other venues in the greater LA area. And now we learn that as part of the 2026 World Cup football tournament site selection process, that the International Football Federation, or FIFA, will be making a tour of Southland Stadium venues to select host sites. In fact, I understand that FIFA may be touring Pasadena within the next week or so. Since FIFA is committed to human rights, including labor standards, I do not want the Rose Bowl and Pasadena to be at a competitive disadvantage in the evaluation of its qualifications because it does not treat its workers with the respect and dignity they deserve. The city should not hide behind any pretense that this labor matter is not a city issue simply because the workers at the Rose Bowl are not actual city employees. The fact is the city operates the Rose Bowl, which has contracted with a concessionaire to provide services during events at the stadium. I urge the city to prioritize negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement between the Rose Bowl, the operating company, and the concessionaires and its workers. Taking actions to resolve this issue would be consistent with the city values. For example, the council has stood up for workers in the recent past by passing a minimum wage ordinance along with the wage enforcement ordinance. The council has supported hero pay during the pandemic. If Pasadena is the world-class city it aspires and claims to be, it should take prompt action to resolve this labor injustice as soon as possible. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Christian Petherbridge, followed by Heavenly Hughes, followed by Anthony Manusos, although we cannot find him in the meeting. Ms. Petherbridge, go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I've called in tonight to ask the council to support the community's multiple requests for Mayor Gordo to apologize for his extremely insensitive and unprofessional comments made towards those calling in from outside the city of Pasadena at the past 2 city council meetings. Sorry, the callers have been calling in for a long time, but Mayor Gordo has made the inappropriate, insensitive, and unprofessional comments at the past 2 meetings. I ask for the council to immediately take action to hold the Pasadena Police Department accountable for the murder of Anthony McClain, including the firing of the officer that murdered Mr. McClain. I ask the council members to immediately, as in tonight, advocate for placing the murder of Anthony McClain by the Pasadena Police Department on the agenda. I yield my remaining time.
Thank you. Heavenly Hughes, followed by Anthony Manusos. If we don't find him, then we'll move on to Lesko Brandon. Ms. Hughes? Ms. Hughes? Is that the only...
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Say his name, Anthony McClain. Say his name, Anthony McClain. Say his name again, Anthony McClain. On November 13th, this past Saturday, was a sold-out screening of Thorns on the Rose, Black Abuse, Corruption in the Pasadena Police. Produced and directed by Dennis Haywood, James Farr, and Rochelle Jones, a Pasadena Black Pages production. The screening was a community-led, sold-out event where constituents of Mayor Gordo and concerned people from neighboring cities joined together. The city council members in Gordo, you all had an opportunity to watch a documentary citing 40 years of abuse by the Pasadena police. On city council meetings and public safety meetings, Mayor Gordo ostracized me, calling me a coward and gutless. I found it interesting that none of the city council members stopped Gordo when he was attacking me. Yet today, callers were told not to single out a certain council member and was not to use offensive words towards council members. This is another example of picking and choosing of the attack, violence, and accountability by the city council. You guys pick and choose what you want to address instead of community care as a whole. The behavior and the lack of public safety by the city council who is truly the oversight committee and the frontline leadership to administer safety, allow community
30 seconds.
to be derated, attacked, and abused by the mayor and did nothing. It is because we are demanding the police to be fired who are murdering and violently beating Black men. You have the power to fire the officers who murdered Anthony McClain. Stop passing the buck. Do not deny us freedom of speech. Agendize OIS policy. Agendize and review the Pasadena City Council. City Council member Tyrone Hampton, make a motion to agendize the murder of Anthony McClain.
Ms. Hughes,
Mayor
your time
Gordo,
has
we
expired.
demand you apologize your divisive and disgusting behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. Lesko, Brandon, followed by, Anthony Manousos is not here. So Lesko, Brandon, followed by Timothy Iveson, who's not here. So we'll move on to Jill Shook after Mr. Brandon. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you go.
I hope the city council will ignore these Altadena and other out-of-town people who keep calling into our Pasadena meetings. Jane Ward, who calls in every week and lives in Altadena, is a professor of gender and sexuality studies, where she focuses on topics like the social construction of whiteness, something she calls feminist pornography, and has referred to heterosexuality as a tragedy. Heavenly Hughes, who we just heard from, calls in every week. Her website, My Tribe Live, states that its mission is to, quote, take the stigma out of gangs, unquote. Ms. Hughes likes to say Anthony McClain's name, but she won't say the name of all the people murdered in Pasadena by the street gangs she has so much sympathy for. Heavenly Hughes is trying to create racial division by dividing people into what she calls tribes. I would like to know from Mr. Brunel if it is true that Ms. Hughes has proposed receiving money from the city of Pasadena for herself or her group, My Tribe Live. These people think that if they bully you hard enough, you will think they are strong and serious people. But these callers are weak and pathetic misfits and race lifters who should be mocked, laughed at, and ignored.
And race what?
Next speaker is Timothy Iveson, who's not in the meeting, so we'll move on to Jill Shook. Ms. Shook, go ahead.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Great, thanks. Yes, I am here to talk about a different topic, although I do hope that you will move quickly toward justice for Anthony McClain. And I want to mention about SB 9. I know there was a discussion last Thursday at the city and at the Planning Commission. And I'm very concerned about the city and what they're considering for this. It really makes no sense to try to stop this great policy. It's an opportunity for people to be able to stay in our city, to subdivide properties. It does not encourage investors because they have to be owner occupied for 3 years. And it brings an opportunity to make housing that's for that missing middle that are more affordable because they're just smaller in size. And so so I want to encourage you to, especially the idea of trying to stop it by having the whole city be historical. I know that I would resent that, and a number of my neighbors would resent being barred from making any changes on our home. That's always been something planned from the bottom up. In a neighborhood coming to the city council and to be a city imposing that really makes no sense. It's just not the Pasadena way. So please stop this fast track to try to stop this great policy. It's something we clearly need in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah is not in the meeting. We'll go to Julie Diaz Martinez, who's the last speaker on matters not on the agenda.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. 2020 was a really extremely difficult year for the entire nation. It was brought to the forefront of the murder of George Floyd, the tremendous disservice that's done to our communities due to racial injustice within both law enforcement and the judicial system. And we're watching it today in a trial of a shooting in Wisconsin. Well, I'm here to let you know that other caller called those of us who speak about racial injustice as weak and pathetic. I hold a master's degree from UCLA. I am a resident here in District 7, and I'm extremely upset that the city of Pasadena has not moved forward to find justice for the killers of Anthony McClain. Not only do his family deserve this type of justice, the entire community is demanding justice for the unlawful murder of Anthony McClain. A routine traffic stop should never be the rightful place to commit murder. These police officers who killed Anthony McClain enacted street justice. They shot him in the back. They are not tasked, they are not trained, and they are not qualified to be peace officers when they serve as judge, juror, and executioner of our residents. In addition to that, I do not believe that this mayor nor the city have done anything to prove to us that they are invested in ending criminal justice. You made the biggest mistake of creating a contract with Sheriff Villanueva. The LA County sheriffs are under investigation by the FBI for deputy gangs, and the California Attorney General has opened up an investigation for them for civil rights abuses. You are not spending Pasadena residents' money wisely. You need to cut that contract with Sheriff Villanueva, and we need to demand justice for the murder of Anthony McClain. Those police officers must be fired immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes public comment on matters not on the agenda.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to move to closed session. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, closed section